tell me, how did you get involved? How did this whole idea came about Girls Gotta Run Foundation?
I read an article in the Washington Post by the East African Bureau Chief. Her name was Emily Wax, and she wrote about the girls of Ethiopia who migrate to the city to try to finish high school and train to be a professional runner. She saw these girls running, like just hordes of girls, morning and night, in these big, because they find each other to train together for safety and support. So determined, so strong, so committed. They want to finish high school, but they tell their parents they're going to run, and they find somebody to live with, like somebody to support them, like a sister, an aunt, a relative, a friend of the family. Here's this article I read. Here's what I think. I think we could do this. I can't do it by myself. Here's the things I can and will do if anybody else is interested in helping with this. You know, it's just there should be a way to do that.
And that's when you started the foundation.
When we connected with Dana and the Tessa Foundation, it felt, and it worked out just right. But it also turned out that really, to be real about it, the girls needed somewhat more than just a few. That's what they wanted and they would have been happy with, even just like one pair a year. They need 3 or 4 pairs of shoes a year. It's not about just like collecting 500 pairs
stuff
of
that
shoes.
I don't need, and then just sending it over.
Airdropping them over.
It's more specific.
It's like we're supporting girls. You know, and what they want is shoes, and they need an ongoing supply. Many of them were training without shoes on, which is one thing in some safe countryside where there's not, you could still get injured, but in the streets it's kind of dangerous to train without shoes. But she told the story of one girl. She would sneak her brother's sneakers out, get up before he was even awake, and wear his shoes to train, and then put them back.
Your whole organization is 100% volunteers.
It still is.
Nobody gets a cent.
We can do anything. It's just something calls you to a certain purpose.
Where do you see it growing? Where do you see it expand? What areas of the organization?
And I mean, ultimately, maybe go out of the country. I mean, Kenya has a lot of girls that are running, although I think they have a little bit more support.
Well, thank you so much. You've done already so much. So
here with us tonight is my husband, Gabby Grebsky. She's been our liaison to the girls, having visited twice, most recently this summer, and so she'll tell you a little bit more about her experience doing that and her experience of the girls.
I stayed at one of the camps, and I got to meet the girls at another camp, Team Tesfa, and these girls are also amazing in that there's 3 of the original girls. Now I think there's maybe 20 on the team, but 3 of the original girls are now starting their own NGO to help support more girls. And so I met the 5 girls that they'd actually like kind of almost plucked off the street. They'd gotten one of these girls who'd been working at a brothel to help support herself, and they'd found a house for these girls, and so they're at 20, they're already paying it forward and trying to get these other girls who are in Addis running. I'm trying to help them kind of make a career for themselves, and they're not just running to get into college like a lot of the kids are here or just for fun. They're definitely running as a means for survival. So they're very inspiring. They're studying during the day. They're working, a lot of them maybe in restaurants or as maids or in bars, and just trying to get enough to make enough money to feed themselves and pay the rent. I do want to go back and visit them and continue to support them. So I'm hoping that you guys feel good about the money that you've given today, and and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know there's some GDS folks here if you guys are interested in going there this summer as well. I'll be happy to talk to you about that. So anyway, thank you for coming, and again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. Thanks.
Here, Ashley Griffith in the she's the most energetic person I think I've ever met.
I have not had the privilege yet to go to Ethiopia, but through all the stories that I've heard from Gabby and others who have been there, others who have been involved with Girls Gotta Run, it really is a fantastic program, and just want to remind you that 100% of your donation goes directly to support the girls, because we are an all-volunteer organization. And while we talk a lot about the running piece, really the running is a vehicle for education. And this is a country where more girls girls are more likely to die in childbirth than to reach the 6th grade in a lot of Ethiopia. And so we're really committed to expanding not just the running opportunities, but the educational opportunities for these girls so that we can really change the paradigm for the next generation.
How difficult it is being a girl and runner and going to school, all that is really very difficult thing to do in Ethiopia, because those girls, they coming from remote area. There's no school bus like here. There's no taxi, there's no cab. They just walking and running, and that's how they deal every day. This may not in the capital cities, but most of the rural areas, that's how we're dealing every day. So those girls, when they try to go to school and when they try to support themselves, it's not very easy unless you get support from like Dr. Pat and other members. So when I first met her, I was not even sure, is she Ethiopian or how come she do all this? And I met her, since I met her, I see what she does, and it's unbelievable. I mean, she's sleepless, and she's very, very, very hardworking for these girls. And I started supporting, and I've been with her most of her fundraising. So that's all I did, and she's the one who does a big job. So thank you, Dr. Pat, on behalf of Ethiopians, and I really appreciate, and we do appreciate what you're doing.
About 4 years ago, well, have any of you watched like Haile Gebrselassie videos on FlowTrack? And he really talks about his childhood and basically coming from where he came from, which is rural poverty, and how running more or less has given him an opportunity to see things that most people never get to see from where he's from. And so it's a vehicle to success. You know, I saw those videos, and that's another thing that's sort of locked in my brain, that the guy cares about helping people through education and through hard work. He reinforces that over and over, and because he more than anybody knows what you know it's like to work hard and how you can use that to enhance the lives of others. And you know, his good friend Paul Turgot, who he was with at the New York Marathon, I got to see Paul Turgot 3 years ago at the World Bank, and he basically talked about the same thing. So this whole, you know, coming here tonight and having Haile Gebrselassie is more than just him, the great runner. It's, you know, how he wants to use running to improve his country and improve the lives of others. So, I mean, I don't know if that provides you with some context, but I think that puts him in a kind of a bigger sphere. You know, Paul Turgot, when he was at the World Bank, he more or less said that running is nothing compared to helping other people achieve a better life. And he kept reinforcing that over and over. He said, running's a gift that God gave me fast legs. And so now I'm using that gift to help others. And so, you know, I was hoping Haile would sort of more or less say the same thing.
I'm not a girl, I'm not a runner, but I totally admire what Pat and the other members of this organization are doing. This weekend I was at the board meeting for Ethiopia Reads in Denver. I happened to meet Dana, who is the head of the TESPA Foundation. So I met the guy who was mentoring one of the 4 teams that Pat talked about in Addis. And when I met him, I was just I was as inspired and in awe as I am when I'm with Pat. You know, it's just, there's an amazing number of people who are really jumping on this and doing extraordinary things. The other thing is I encourage everybody to Google the Simeon runners, because there is this terrific program in the Simeon Mountains, which is in the north of Ethiopia, where these girls are running at very high altitude in the most incredible alpine environment. And once you see the videos, you're all going to just want to hop on a plane and go there, because it's an amazing place, and the girls themselves are just really inspiring. So I support this organization. I encourage all of you to support it as well. Thank you.
How did you see you come in?
Penestalin, Namulacho.
Very good.
Inumulo alame balalo. Thank you. I was just saying good evening to the Ethiopian crowd here. I'm Professor Mulo Alam, or Charles Teller, and I teach at Malet. That's my Gondar Sim Muloalam. And I did have a chance, I do teach at Asabi University. I've been for the last 20 years. I also teach here at George Washington University. And because for the last 3 years I was a scholar at Jim's organization, Population Reference Bureau, I was able to get to know Pat and Jim. And because I was commuting back and forth to Ethiopia, because I do research in the area, in rural areas, I was able to do the favor of visiting the Simeon girls up in Gondar. As you know, the majority of girls, while now they are entering primary school, the majority do not reach high school. The girls who are running in the Simeon are all high school students. So they are relatively selective and they're highly motivated. Not only are they good runners, but they want to achieve something in their life beyond running and beyond high school. And one of the biggest problems in Ethiopia for high school girls is that once they graduate, the employment opportunities are quite scarce. We do employment surveys every 5 years. We do a census every 10 years. We do demographic and health surveys every 5 years. We do a lot of research, and we monitor that. And the gender gap is quite large for girls, more than boys. But in terms of running, there is good organization. There's motivation, and also they're very good. So I also admire Pat for what she's done, the real leadership. We ourselves are also involved in developing a Yetena Makel, an MCH clinic, to prevent death in childbirth and neonatal death. And so it's important that the Ethiopian community, the diaspora here is here to support these types of events, and I'm glad to see you here. And Kwanda Salacho.